My name is Erica Shorty. I am your host tonight. I'm your host every month for Chat with the Cat. I'm Erica Shorty, Associate Director for Alumni Career Networks. And boy, do we have a treat for you. If it is your first time joining Chat with the Cat, welcome home. If it is not your first time joining Chat with Cat, welcome back. We missed you. Glad you came back. We have such an amazing show tonight. And I know some of you that have been here before are like, Erica, you say that every month. Well, every month is a treat, and you'll see why. Tonight, I want you to give the ultimate Wildcat welcome. We have Whitney A. White, class of 2008. She is an innovative leader. She is an entrepreneur. She is the executive advisor focused on building systems and enabling people and organizations. She's also going to share a little bit of her story, her Davidson story, and then talk to you a little bit about how she pivoted where she is. Listen, I'm not going to stall this anymore because she's just amazing, and you're going to see exactly why. Uh, Everyone, give your Wildcat welcome to Whitney A. White. Whitney, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Erica. I appreciate the love. It's so great to be here with all of you and to see some of my classmates. There might be others, but I see Alice and Nora there. I can't see everybody on my screen at once, but it is so great to be here. I'm going to share my screen and jump right in. Really excited to be here with all of you, just like Erica is. I love her energy. And Erica has told me that these Chat with the Cats are really awesome and everybody brings the energy. So I'm excited to dig into this topic and also give everyone some really tangible strategies that you can use in your everyday life. I am so glad to be able to do this. And also, one of the things that Eric and I are excited about is the fact that I've also carved out time for folks who want to be able to talk one-on-one. There are limited spots. So we said we would kind of share this early on as a treat for people who came early. And so if you want time one-on-one, I have set aside time at whitneyawhite.com to be able to answer questions, talk about your personal situations, and you to have a complimentary session. So let's dig in. To set the stage for the topic, I first want to share a little bit about my background and how I came to this work. My area of expertise is best summed up by the word maximizer. This was actually something that I started to learn about myself during my time at Davidson. I did the Leadership Davidson program where we did a Strengths Finder assessment, and I learned that I was really good at seeing the potential in other people. And it really resonated as I learned more about this through Leadership Davidson. And so over my career, I've used this, and it's translated also into my various businesses. I realized that I was someone where I could spot high potential people and organizations, and that I know how to take them from not only where they are now and where they want to be, but also to that place that maybe they didn't even know they could get. I started my career after Davidson in management consulting with Bain and Company, where I advised Fortune 500 executives. I majored in anthropology at Davidson. Dr. Nancy Fairley was my advisor. And one of the things that I loved so much about anthropology was that it really spoke to this interest that I'd always had as someone who was interested in people and how they interacted with one another, cultural dynamics, and how culture and society impacted our beliefs, our behaviors, and our decisions. Another thing I've always been is an entrepreneur at heart. I started my first business, which was a tutoring service, back in elementary school, and I ran it until the time that I went off to school at Davidson. I'd grown that business to the point where I had dozens of clients and made several $1,000s a year while I was still a kid. As an adult, I then started my innovation firm, Afara Global, in 2011. And I became a full-time entrepreneur, which I've been since 2013. Continuing to draw on that background in anthropology, that degree from Davidson, since 2016, I have interviewed hundreds of individuals at various points in their lives with various goals and challenges. And I've taken what I heard from them, combined with what I've learned working with countless executives over my career, and developed my signature program, Take Back Your Time. In Take Back Your Time, I do similar maximizing to what I've done my whole career and in some ways my entire life, but it's with high potential individuals. People who have ambitious goals for their professional and personal lives, but are pulled in so many directions day to day that they can end up overwhelmed and at risk of falling short of maximizing their full potential. Okay, so let's talk about what you're going to get out of our time together. I'm very action oriented, so I want you to be able to apply these things. So during this session, my goal is to provide you with tangible strategies to equip you to build the life you've always dreamed of without running yourself into the ground. Move past other people's ideas of success and get on your own path to achieving the goals that matter the most to you. Avoid the trap of staying busy all the time without actually getting the things you most want and need done. And enjoy your life now, as opposed to running yourself ragged with the hope that one day you'll be able to relax, slow down, and just enjoy the fruits of your labor. So why is this all important, and why is it important now? We're going to pause, and I'd like you to take a few moments to really think about this and share in the chat. What challenges are you facing? How are those challenges impacting you? So just reflect for a moment and share something in terms of why you wanted to be here, why this felt important for you. So I'll look for those comments in the chat, and let's see how people are feeling. What are those challenges? What's been coming up for you as it relates to time, things on your plate, stress, whatever those day-to-day challenges are. We'll take a few moments so you can drop those in the chat. Love this. Ooh, I love this. About to retire, looking forward to more flexibility with my time and talents. How to defend time for creativity. I love both of those. They're actually very much connected. One of the things we'll talk about a little bit later on, and there's actually a little mini case study, is about finding those times for passions, those passion projects, whether it's creative or some other interest, some other part of you that you want to be able to put time into. Okay, so we've got an entrepreneur fundraising for a startup while also building the business, figuring out next steps. Ooh, too much time in meetings, not enough time to do the real work. Okay, we're going to talk about the real work. We're going to talk about that in terms of the prioritization. Okay, I love it. Yes. Individual contributor and also managing people, how you can improve your life, being healthier, time for family. Guys, this is amazing. So great. And I love that we have folks that are thinking about that second act as well. So sometimes we have the first career and then we're like, okay, what's that next chapter? What does that look like? And how do I even prioritize that? So great. I love how you all are thinking about this. And there's some common threads that are coming up. So common threads around time, prioritization, balance, very, very helpful. So a couple things that I'm seeing in terms of threads from you all, but that I also hear from so many leaders. And at the root, there are some all too common misconceptions and frankly, some false narratives that can make it easy for us to wind up doing so much, whether we're running all the time from one thing to the next, we're working like crazy. And over time, later we realize, wait a minute, did I actually get where I wanted to go? Or it could even be that we have a lot of time on our hands because we're in a different phase of our life and our career, but we still feel like, wait a minute, am I accomplishing the thing that I'm really passionate about? And maybe there's some inertia, there's something that's keeping us from actually getting that done. So whatever it is, you want to make sure that the time isn't going by without you feeling like you're actually fulfilling those dreams that you have. As a reminder, because I know we have some new folks that joined, welcome. We do have a limited number. I don't know if there are any left because I can't see right now on my screen, but there are a limited number of one-on-one complimentary session times at whitneyawhite.com if you'd like to talk one-on-one. So I have heard from so many leaders like you all who have goals that are core to who you are, and you don't want to settle when you know that you're capable of so much more. There are also many who feel like, you know what, I'm invested in what I'm doing in my day job, in my 9 to 5, but But there are also parts of me that I want to invest in, but I can't fully set free. Things I want at the center, but it feels like it's way out on the periphery. I've also heard from many leaders who really feel like, you know what, it would be the dream if I could wake up and do the things that I want to do instead of feeling like I have all of these things that I have to do. I've also heard from many leaders who are frankly tired of putting in a lot of energy and time and effort for other people's goals, but they feel like they're not building what they want to build for themselves. And I saw there are some entrepreneurs in the chat who might be in a similar place. And then some of us are just plain old tired. We're just tired from work, from home, from everything in between. And we don't have enough time to rest and recharge. And we feel like, you know what? I don't want to burn out and not even reach the goals that I have for myself. But we lack that clear plan of how to go from where we are today to that place you want to be. And frankly, the confidence to know that you have what you need to stay on track. Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is that there are certain key steps you have not yet taken. Once you implement what I'm about to share, and if you haven't yet, you can definitely grab a pen and paper, or if you want to take notes on your computer, because I'm going to go through some key steps, you're going to have full confidence that the life you're building checks all the boxes of what's most important to you personally and professionally. Crystal clarity on where to invest your time and energy in order to get the biggest return on your life goals. A sixth sense for time wasters. Someone talked about being in meetings all the time and it not being as productive. So I know what that's like. And a keen ability to avoid getting sucked into those time traps. And lastly, freedom to enjoy your life day to day while knowing you're truly living up to your full potential. Reminder about whitneyawhite.com/time. And if you haven't yet, definitely grab a pen and paper because I'm going to tell you a story and then I'm going to go through the steps. So a little bit about my own story. If you have ever felt like you are doing all the things you're supposed to do, but you're not quite where you want to be, I have totally been there. In the summer of 2013, I moved to Washington, D.C., where I didn't have any family and I hardly knew anyone. I did have a couple of awesome Davidson friends. I had a couple friends, but it was a big change being in a new city, not knowing many people and not knowing anyone in terms of family. And then I quit my job. I decided to focus on my innovation practice full time. And so I wasn't making any money. I also was a new mom with an infant less than 1 year old. And I was definitely in a place where my hands were full between business and being a mom and being in a new city and all of these things. Within 6 months of that move, my entire world fell apart. I got separated from my husband. I was trying to find a place to live in this brand new city and had absolutely no money coming in. And I was trying to be the absolute best mom I could be when, frankly, it was a struggle every day, simply not to fall to pieces. It was actually in that space, and I will say it was the absolute darkest moments of my life, that I said to myself, Whitney, you've spent your entire life trying to do things the way everyone said you should. And I'd been that person. I'd been that high achiever my whole life. I was the straight A student. I was the valedictorian. I had the Belk scholarship at Davidson. Like I was senior class president. I got this amazing job at Bain. Like I was that person. Like I was like, yep. Everything's great. And I'm doing everything the way that I should. And it was also working like crazy, sacrificing so much, and frankly, taking advice from all the people who were supposed to know better, people who were well-meaning, right? Who wanted to be helpful, but it was listening to so much from the outside. And still, I felt like, wow, everything went to hell anyway. That's how it felt. And so I decided in the midst of that, in the midst of what felt like just an absolute, just darkest time, you know what? I'm going to rebuild my life. And this time, I'm going to do it exactly the way I want it to be. Not what everyone was telling me it should be, but the way I wanted it to be. In order to do that, I had to deprogram myself from all that external noise that was holding me back, and then get to a place where I could really get clear on the life I wanted to build. Because frankly, I didn't know. A lot of it was doing what I was supposed to do. What did I really want? What did I really want my life to look like? And what was the path to get there? I had to stop making the huge mistakes I'd been making over and over again. I had to stop thinking that working like crazy and being exhausted was some kind of badge of honor. I had to stop feeling like I had to do every single thing that ended up on my to-do list. I had to get over feeling like no one else could do as good of a job as I could, so I had to do everything myself. And most of all, I had to let go of the myth that I may have to sacrifice my health, my wellness, and my happiness in the present in order to get where I wanted to be in the future. It was in the middle of that storm that I built the initial pieces of Take Back Your Time. Every single aspect of what I do and what my team does in that program, I have tested in my own life and used in my own life. And it's a huge part of what's gotten me to the place where I've accomplished the goals that seemed absolutely crazy. So impossible when I first set them in those darkest years. Those darkest moments. It actually didn't last years, thankfully. In those darkest moments years ago, I set out to run my own thriving business that gave me the flexibility to be a super involved mom and the financial freedom to travel and take vacations whenever I wanted. And that's exactly what I've done. Now I'm going to walk through those steps and share them with you all so you can take away things that you can apply for yourself. Today, I am incredibly grateful that I run 3 thriving businesses where I do work that I love. And that's allowed me to build a life where I get to expose my daughter to adventures around the world. I was able to buy a home in a neighborhood I love. And year after year, I get to enjoy my favorite pastime, R&R, on some of the world's best beaches. That's actually a photo in the bottom right with my freshman roommate from Davidson, Teddy. So fortunately, I also get to see some of my Davidson friends and alumni in my travels as well. In order to get to that place where I am in my life, where I really feel that joy and also that I'm doing an amazing job with all my goals, while still having that freedom and flexibility, enjoying my life day to day, that same place where many of my clients have gotten, I had to first stop making these huge mistakes. Mistake number 1, stop thinking working like crazy and being exhausted is a badge of honor. This is super important because many of us, and I have been there, I definitely had this habit at Davidson, and I know many of us also had this as high achievers, and we develop a habit, we have this pattern, and we carry it through, frankly, across our life. And so many of us walk around exhausted, on the verge of burnout. And we have an idealized view telling us that the hours we work and maybe even the sleep we don't get is something to be proud of. That's nonsense. We are less efficient, less effective, and way more prone to mistakes when we're doing this. You're juggling so many different balls that at any moment they can all come crashing down. And if you keep doing this, you'll stay trapped in that anxious feeling. You guys know the feeling. It's that like feeling of, at any moment, everything could fall to pieces. Like you're running, but never actually getting where you want to go. Instead of valuing incessant activity and busyness, prioritize outcomes. Ask yourself what you actually want to accomplish day to day, week to week, and put the focus on outcomes over activity. When you get off the hamster wheel and stop idealizing busyness and exhaustion, and instead focus on outcomes, you can stop being busy and start getting the most important things done. You can stop wasting energy and anxiety in that constant amped up state, keeping all those balls in the air. And I know you guys know what it's like because I'm seeing it in the chat. Keep it coming. I love the feedback in the chat. So you can stop wasting that energy, keeping all those balls in the air, and actually slow down, achieve those goals that really matter, and experience the pride in accomplishing those things that you've set out to do. And I will tell you that pride in accomplishment is a way better feeling than the pride in busyness. That pride in accomplishment is an amazing feeling because you'll know that you're finally living up to your full potential. Meet the old Jessica. In her own words, she said, I had a lot going on. My day job, but also running essentially 5 different businesses on the side. So I had a lot going on, and for some reason, I thought I could fit it all. Unsurprisingly, it did not work. I didn't feel like I had enough time, but it was tough because I didn't feel like I could cut back on anything. And now the new Jessica, after she stopped wearing busyness as a badge of honor and made the shift to intentionality over busyness, she said, Whitney helped me get immense clarity about my goals in all aspects of my life, then strategically and rigorously align my time with my goals. The curriculum forced me to get real about how I was spending my time day to day, week to week, and make tough decisions about how to align my most valuable resource, time, with those goals that were really most important to me. I've now taken huge steps to advance my business while making time for priorities in my personal life.
I realized in doing the program that Whitney asked questions about my desires and my dreams and my goals that no one had ever asked me before, right? People will talk to you professionally, at work, oh, what do you aspire to do, whatever. Your family will talk to you about, why you don't have any kids yet. And, but no one talks to you about you, right? Like who you want to be. What do you want for yourself? Not just for your career or for your family, but what kind of life do you want to live? Like what feels right, what feels authentic to you? And being able to have those conversations with someone who also had the skills to help you formulate a plan to get there was just invaluable.
Number 2, stop feeling like you have to do every single thing that ends up on your to-do list. As high achievers, sometimes we can get obsessive about feeling like we need to complete everything, feeling like we can't ever leave anything undone. What this leads to is a mile-long to-do list that makes us feel like we're always behind and there's never any hope of catching up. Now, we all intuitively know that some things are more important than others. But when we're trapped in the land of the never-ending to-do list, often we're just happy to get anything on there done. So we start throwing away time on things that aren't even that important, but just somehow ended up on our to-do list. When you're walking around like this, it's plain old depressing because you're spending your time on things that are not important to you. And you start to feel this hopeless feeling like there's no end in sight. You always have so much to do. Even worse, you end up feeling like you have no real control or power over your own time. X the low value tasks off your to-do list. Simply do not do them. When you break free from that old mindset, you will realize that not everything on your to-do list absolutely has to get done. And you'll realize that you want to be investing your precious time in the tasks that are truly most important for where you're trying to go. When you free yourself from the weight of having those low value tasks hanging over your head, this will give you the brain space to focus on high priorities that really matter. Years ago, I kind of chuckled to myself when I first heard someone say brain space. I thought, what is that? That's some kind of made up thing that's not even a real concept. Well, then I cleared away the noise of low value tasks and got my own brain space. And wow, what a difference it makes. Simply having less noise, less to dos rattling around in your head makes an incredible impact. It frees you up to really kick butt on the priorities that really matter. Most of all, you will start to feel empowered. You will feel more in control of your time and thus more in control of your life day to day. Now I want you to meet the old Emmanuel. Here's what he said. I was feeling completely overburdened with responsibilities at work and at home, and I knew I needed to find a better way to balance them. I also wanted my work to feel more effortless and fulfilling. So that's the place where he was in life. Let me know if anybody else has been there. And now the new Emmanuel. He said, the most important thing I learned is what I should be focusing on. That's helped me figure out what is simply noise in my life. I can be a lot more organized and responsive to clients when I'm not juggling a million things. Going forward, I have the tools to stay mindful about my workload and my commitments, and to remember to only focus on the things that make me happy or are critical to my goals. And also hear from Dr. Grant about how becoming more efficient with his time allowed him to invest in his passion projects.
I was really looking forward to and really gained the opportunity to create time in my schedule that allowed me to not only continue my day-to-day daily operations as a medicine resident, but also to really incorporate, the things that truly fueled me, as a clinician and truly fueled me as a person and the things that I was really, really passionate about. And so, after having completed the program, we still have the same amount of hours in the day. However, just being more efficient with those hours and being more efficient with, how I spent and planned my week was really, really helpful. And that's kind of one of the biggest things that I gained throughout the program. So, being able to continue to keep up the same day-to-day responsibilities, but still affording time for yourself in order to feed those passion projects that you're interested in.
And fun fact here, Dr. Grant was in one of my very first cohorts of Take Back Your Time. Little did I know that him getting that time to work on his passion project would turn into him recruiting me to help him with one of those. And I became his co-founder in our VR company. So another Davidson alum, Davidson 2010. Number 3, get over feeling like no one else can do as good of a job as you can. This is another problem that we high achievers have. Because you don't think anyone else can do as good of a job as you can, you are afraid to let go. You end up convincing yourself that you have to do everything yourself. Who's ever been there? Who's ever struggled with this? This is a dangerous place to be in. Think of all that pressure. By making this mistake of thinking you have to do everything yourself, you walk around with the weight of so many responsibilities on your shoulders. Responsibilities at work, at home, everything is on you, and it's suffocating. There's so much you feel like you have to do that you literally can't even catch a breath. Delegate. I'm going to say that again. Delegate. The idea that you are the only one who can get it done right is total nonsense. You are not the only competent person or system on the planet. Identify the right tasks to delegate and the right people or systems to delegate them to. When you free yourself from the I have to do everything myself mindset, then you can reap the benefits of laser-like focus on those areas where you're able to add value in a truly differentiated way, which will get you closer and closer to your big goals. This is an incredible place to be, because when you start to feel focused, and the feeling of focus, I know for some of us is a distant memory, where you're like, wait a minute, that was a very long time ago. Or you might think, I never felt that. I don't know what it is to be focused. I've always felt so scattered. Well, I will tell you that feeling of focus is an incredible and super powerful feeling. When you feel focused, you can tackle so many of those big goals that are important for you personally, for the teams that you lead, or for your entire organization. Focus is like a superhero type of gift. When you are focused, you can think clearly, you can be more creative, you can communicate more effectively. True focus feels like you are operating at your peak level and nothing can stand in your way. The old Jasper was trying to do so much. Here's what he said. I think I underestimated that even if you enjoy what you're doing, it's still work. So I'd be like, oh, it's okay, I'm fine. So with my calendar, there are things I wished I could push off to team members, but not completely. So people still needed to check with me. And the new Jasper, Whitney helped me get super clear on how to prioritize my goals and get rid of all the noise in my work and personal life. It's given me a complete mindset shift. And as a result, I think I'll be a better CEO and have the ability to drive my startup towards profitability. While that's always been our goal, after looking at how I spend my time currently, it became clear that that was undoubtedly going to take way longer than necessary because I was wasting my time on things that matter, but don't make sense for me to be doing. As a result of the course, I feel a new zen, and I'm hyped about the changes I have already made. Also hear from Harlan on the benefits he's gotten from better balancing his focus and the demands on his time.
I've been mindful of the ways that I balance the various demands on my time and the various demands on my attention and focus. And through that mindfulness and through consistent application of some of the very principles and frameworks that we introduce through Take Back My Time, I've been able to achieve higher satisfaction in both my personal life and in my professional life. And this has been something that's been truly valuable.
Last, but certainly not least, stop believing you have to sacrifice your health, wellness, and happiness in the present in the hopes that it'll all be worth it at some point down the road. If you sacrifice things that you can never get back, you are playing a dangerous game. Each of us is a whole person. We're not just our work or any one aspect of ourselves. When we over-index on one aspect of our lives and neglect the others, that's a recipe for disaster. We end up feeling unfulfilled because there are parts of ourselves that we're not allowing to flourish. Even if everything looks great to people on the outside, deep down, we know we're not fully happy, not fully satisfied, and that's a horrible feeling. Break out of the mindset that everything is important except your own happiness. Give yourself permission to prioritize your own happiness. Start believing that you actually deserve to be happy right now. And that's regardless of whether or not you got everything done on your to-do list that day. When you give yourself permission to be happy now, you can make the kind of true change that doesn't have you hoping and wishing for better days way off in the distance. Instead, it has you enjoying your life today in the here and now, knowing that you've stopped wasting time, are investing your time in the ways you really want to be, and are accomplishing the goals that matter most to you in all the parts of your life, including prioritizing your own happiness. That feeling of freedom and personal fulfillment is truly priceless. It's why we get out of bed in the morning. No one wants to go through life feeling like I'm working hard, I'm grinding all the time, but I'm miserable. I'm hopeless. I'm unfulfilled. And the great news is that none of us have to do this. We can all truly experience the kind of genuine joy that comes from both freedom and fulfillment. James was so stuck in the mindset of sacrifice. as if his life just had to be so hard. He'd fully bought into that sacrifice mindset, and here's where he ended up. James said, I had an anxiety attack and realized I'd hit a fork in the road where I needed to make a decision to take control of my life. I wanted to position myself to do what I wanted to do rather than reacting to a bunch of things coming my way that need to be done. And now, hear from the new James, who has taken control of his time and is both on the path to reaching his goals and also enjoying life day to day. Time he could never get back. James said, I have made significant changes to how I approach my days. The process Whitney took us through has been extremely helpful in showing me where my time is going and where I want it to go. It also helped me face the myth that I have told myself for years that I can essentially create time. I've now faced the reality that there is truly a limit to how much I can do in a given day. And I've decided that I want to be intentional about how I spend those precious hours. Also, hear from Caroline about how she realized she didn't have to sacrifice the things she valued around health and wellness in order to pursue her passions.
And I just thought that there just wasn't enough time during the day to do my art. And I was almost at a point where I thought, well, maybe this just isn't the season for it. Maybe once my children are a little older, or once if I had to, if I wanted to do this, I needed to give up other things like meditating and exercise and all the other personal things that I do for my health and wellness, which I didn't want to give up. And so it was a joy to know that I didn't have to sacrifice those things. I have a more methodical approach to not saying this or that, but it's this and that now.
Stop thinking, feeling, believing. 1, busyness, working like crazy, and being exhausted is a badge of honor. 2, you have to do every single thing that ends up on your to-do list. 3, no one else can do as good of a job as you can, so you have to do everything yourself. And 4, that you have to sacrifice your health, wellness, and happiness in the present in order to get where you want to go in the future. So I just shared several of the critical mistakes that so often hold us back from building the life we want, regardless of what phase we're in, whether we're early career, mid-career, whether we're starting a new chapter. These are the types of things that can come up. I've also shared the steps that I've personally taken to break those patterns and deprogram myself so I could build the life I truly wanted. And I've shared real life stories of other leaders I've worked with who've done exactly that. Before we jump into your questions, here's that link again, whitneyawhite.com/time. If there are spots remaining, I'm happy to chat with folks one-on-one. But we also have time for your questions that you can ask during our time together. So I'm going to turn it over to Erica to facilitate our Q&A.
Wow. 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 There's so many things that I want to say, but I'm just going to first just say thank you, because meeting us where we are in 2026 is so pivotal. And I know if I've got all these questions swirling, I know you all must have questions. So here's a little bit of info here. At the bottom of your screen, if you click more, there is a Q&A box. If you don't feel like or feel comfortable asking your question, click the Q&A button, drop your question in that chat, or you can drop your question in the actual chat. We have been sharing all types of quotes, affirmations, just all the things, reactions from today. And so also I welcome you, if you want to raise your hand, come off of mute, and you can ask your question live to Whitney. And so we have, so many thank yous in the chat. Tiffany
Yay,
Major,
I
Whitney,
love
that was
it. Thank you all.
amazing.
Yes,
I
thank
love
you
your
for the feedback.
transparency.
Thanks.
Catherine McEady. Hey, Catherine. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for sharing those practical steps. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for, oh my gosh, I love this so much. I love it. I love it. Um, I am going to, I'll kick things off with a question that I have here while we get other questions in the chat. Let's talk about daily habits. As a coach
Mm.
myself, I tell a lot of my clients, a lot of alums, success is found in your routine. And so what small things can all of us here do in our routine to ensure that we are taking back our time? Small steps leading to big outcomes, but what are some of those things that we can do day to day to really start to take back our time?
Yeah. So if I kind of go back a little bit to some of the points that I shared and what that can look like in your day to day. So if we start with that prioritization of busyness, right? That kind of getting sucked into busyness culture versus getting really clear about outcomes, you can apply that day to day, even in how you approach your week, right? So
Yeah.
instead of just getting into the week and it's like, okay, I'm just busy and I don't even know where the week went, taking that step back and being really clear on what you want to accomplish that week,
Mm,
right? What's really the focus for the week? What is the outcome that you want to get to for the week, as opposed to, I got to the end of the week and I realized, oh, I really needed to do that thing and I didn't do it. Or I really wanted to achieve something and I haven't achieved it. Well, I didn't have clear intention going into the week, right? So
mm,
that's one way in terms of just like a very straightforward and simple thing. One of the things that we do with all of our clients is we get really clear in terms of an overarching goal for their life, so across all the points, so it's a holistic goal, and then we really break
yeah,
that down into a roadmap so that they can see, okay, this is the overarching goal that we got clear on, and then how are we going to get there? But
yeah,
then again, once you have that roadmap, you can break it down to the next level and the next level so that you really know week to week, month to month what we're accomplishing. But even if you don't quite have the clarity yet, even if you don't maybe know the big overarching picture, you can definitely start your week with the clarity and intentionality to say, what is it that I really want to focus on this week in terms of accomplishment, not time
yeah,
spent? That's really important,
yeah,
right? Because we're talking about outcomes. We don't have to say, oh, I want to spend 2 hours on this or 3 hours on that. What do I want to get out of this week? What's going to make me
yeah.
feel like this was worthwhile and this was a successful week for me? So that's one kind of small thing. If we go back to the 4 keys that I laid out, that's one kind of small takeaway that it can look like on a weekly basis.
Thank you, Whitney. And we have a question in the Q&A
Yeah.
box. Um, Whitney, what does your program look like? How many people? How much time, et cetera, et cetera? Let me know.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a couple of different formats in terms of how we work with clients. We have one-on-one formats where it really is completely self-paced. So individuals are going through modules because I'm all about efficiency, right? So I'm not teaching live in Take Back Your Time every day, every week, right? Part of what I've done is scale my business so that I can also live the life that I want to live,
Yeah.
right? So I have modules that are on my proprietary platform where people can go through as our clients. They are watching the lessons, watching the modules. They have their worksheets, their workbooks where they're following along. And then they get in their one-on-one coaching session on Zoom with their coach so that they're applying everything that they did in that module to their individual life. And so that's that self-paced version where typically we are working with clients over the course of 4 months to go through the program and apply to their life. And they're having a series of one-on-one coaching sessions as they work through the modules. And then the work that I also do really love and I get very excited about is that once a year, I run live masterminds where I am actually working with clients. I am coaching live in a group setting and also doing one-on-ones, and it's great. I love it. It's like very energizing for me. But just to be candid, I do that once a year. And so the rest of the year, I'm not doing that live because it's the balance that I've gotten to in my life that I love and that I enjoy, and it allows me to focus on being a CEO as opposed to working in the business every single day. And so I have an amazing team who are supporting our clients day to day. But that's typically what it looks like. It's either once a year working with me live in a group, or it's one-on-one self-paced throughout the year.
Thank you, Whitney. And I want to give the space for anyone who wants to ask any questions to Whitney live here. Uh, raising your hand, coming off of mute, maybe just sharing some of the sentiments that were shared in the chat are also welcome. But this space is for you. It's for all of us. I think in a time where for years, that was a rewarded thing. Hustle culture,
Mm.
or team no sleep. I remember that was a thing at one time, like, oh, team no sleep. I'm up all night working on my goals. And, we're understanding that now there has to be a balance because you're self-sabotaging yourself. And if you are self-sabotaging yourself, there's no way that you can be of any help to a team, to your department, to your family, to your children. And so, I just so appreciate you bringing that to the forth. Basically, Whitney said, go to sleep. She said, get your rest. She
Well, it
said,
is
get your
really
rest.
important, Erica, just to even jump in there. One of the things that I think many of us see is that when we don't have that time to
Yeah.
recharge, to rest, to do the things that really feed us, and it's
Yeah.
often, it's sometimes it's sleep, sometimes it's time to work out, sometimes it's making sure that I'm eating, healthy food, sometimes it's making sure that I have time to read a book or go for a walk,
Right.
whatever those things are that recharge us. Then frankly, we don't show up in the best version of ourselves in the other
Right.
parts of our life. That could be in our work. We're not as creative. We're not recharged. It could also even be in our relationships. It can be in,
Right.
how we interact with people, our level of patience. One of the things that I know I've seen as a mom, that especially when my daughter was really little, she could do the exact same thing, but based on,
Yeah.
how like well rested I was either
Yeah.
more calm about it, or maybe I was a little more frustrated about it. Right. And
Right.
so making sure that we're doing what we need for us is actually the best thing for everyone else, right? It's the
Yeah.
best thing for all the parts of our life. And often we put ourselves last when it really does help us in every area if we are making sure that we prioritize what we need.
You mentioned in your presentation about delegation and being
Mm-hmm.
able to say, listen, I am not the only person that can get this done. What do you
Mm-hmm.
say to the person that feels like they can't unhand the to-do list or unhand the project or unhand, like, what do you say to the person that says, listen, I have to be in charge of this thing and I have to do this one thing? How can they loosen the grip a little bit and delegate efficiently?
Yeah, it's really about testing,
Mm,
because if you have struggled with delegation, you are not going to hand over a whole bunch of things all at once. That's not going to happen, and that's okay.
yeah,
we
yeah,
can we can
yeah,
we can start with small steps, right? And it's also important, because we are high achievers and we do want things to be done at a certain level, to be thoughtful about who you are delegating things to, right? Who is that person? And so, or who is that system? So you can start with small tests. You might have someone on your team where you think, you know what, and someone mentioned this earlier, I'm in so many meetings.
yeah,
You can identify someone on your team. I actually had a client where we worked on this a couple of months ago. You can identify someone on your team who has the potential to potentially represent you in some of those meetings, represent your team. Maybe they need a
yeah,
little coaching, maybe they need a little extra support to get to that next level. And this is a great opportunity for them. And so
yeah,
you can say, you know what, this is not a critical meeting for me to be in. I'm going to let this
yeah,
person represent our team. Make sure you prep them, make sure you're clear with them in terms of what you want them to be able to do in those meetings, or any context that they need, any certain action items you want from them after those meetings, etc. And perhaps you attend together at first, right? You might have them in the meeting alongside you. People get accustomed to seeing them. And then
yeah,
you kind of fall back. Let them speak up in the meeting, right? Let them speak up for your team in the meetings. And then you remove yourself. You stop
yeah,
going to the meetings, right?
yeah,
If you need to communicate that, hey, so and so is going to be attending in my stead, etc., you can communicate that. But you've already helped to transition that person into those meetings, and getting those off of your plate will free you up to focus on the things that are
yes,
most important for you. And so with the client where we did that with someone on their team, and oh, John Paul has a question. So excited to go there next. With the client where we did that, the person on his team was really excited to get the opportunity. And he
yeah,
realized, you know what, if they're attending these meetings, there are other things I can start to delegate to them as well. Right? There's some
yes,
of the work that would come out of these meetings, et cetera, that this person can take on.
yeah,
And they are excited for the opportunity because it's helping them grow. And so you can start with those types of tests. Sometimes it's testing a system, testing some technology, and you can gain confidence in it and then delegate more and more.
Thank you. John Paul, I see your hand up. You can come off of mute.
Thanks, Erica. Thanks, Whitney. Great job. Good stuff. Uh, you mentioned having done this work on yourself in your own life. Would you be willing to give us a peek behind the curtain and share what you're working on right now in in either your business or your life?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love it. I use myself as the guinea pig for everything. so this is definitely a little bit behind the scenes. So a couple of things that I'm always doing. So with Take Back Your Time, I started the program in 2018. And there's a process that we take clients through in order to reach their goal. That first goal, I started the program in 2018, but I was already using myself as a guinea pig like well before that. And so that first goal that I had to run my own thriving business that gave me the flexibility to be a super involved mom and the financial freedom to travel and take vacations whenever I wanted, it took me 5 years to get there. So from that place of like, oh my gosh, like separated, divorced, trying to get this business running, et cetera, it took me 5 years to like get to that place. And then I set a new goal. And that one took me 3 years. And then, so I kept having this process where I keep working my own program. Like I keep doing that. And the thing that I'm doing right now, my latest thing, I mentioned that once a year I run a live mastermind where I'm working with clients live. And so I run 2 of them. I actually run one for men and a separate one for women, because just from a community standpoint and also goals, we just found that they're just a little bit different. So we have two separate groups. And for alumni, people who have finished those programs, I have a private mastermind that is a year-long community. So that's a newer program. And what I'm doing behind the scenes is testing that curriculum on myself. So we're in year 3 of that program, and it's very heavily mindset. It's very much mindset. So it's less about system and process, which we do in a lot of my foundational programs. And a lot of it is mindset. So for me, one of the things that I've personally been working on as I'm guinea pigging, myself here, is having more and more trust around ease, around flow. As someone who is very detail oriented, and even as I manage my team, everybody knows like everybody's on it. Like I'm so like fortunate to have a great team and people, they do an amazing job. But for me, one of the things I'm doing is also just pushing more. How much can I free up brain space? How much can I expect things to work well? How much can I let go and not even have my brain working on having to think about the details or having to check in on this thing? There are times when I'm like, oh, this person needs to do this and that. And I'm like, you know what, Whitney, let's just trust that they're going to do it, and just save myself the time and the energy, and just not even have to do the follow-up, not even have to do the check-in. And so it's kind of at this like level 4, if this was a video game. It's more of kind of the very, very fine tuning of things are already amazing. Things are already really good. Yes. Like John said, flow. Exactly. So just trusting more and more of the flow, trusting the flow. And having this feeling of, you know what if things were even easier? Right? Like I'm traveling right now, and I was supposed to be back in the States. I was supposed to be returning, I think tomorrow. And I was like, oh, I'm having such a great time. I'm just going to extend my trip, and trusting the flow. And you know what? And then I extended it again. So now Deirdre's on, and I'm sure she will appreciate this from our alumni and family engagement team. I will be flying in directly to go to Charleston for the Women of Davidson Alumni Weekend. That's when I will be returning, because I just kept extending my trip because I'm just trusting the flow of how things are. So that's the behind the scenes of kind of what I'm doing right now in my life. It's a lot of flowing and enjoying.
Oh, Whitney. I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like we need to have a part 2. I feel like we need to have a part two. Whitney, I just want to say to you and pour into you, you have the true heart of a coach. We appreciate you not only sharing just these tidbits, these nuggets of knowledge that you have gathered, but also pouring into each and every one of us on this call today. Um, to our chat with the cat vets, because you spent more than 40 minutes here, so you're officially vets now. We hope that you take what we talked about today and put it in fearless action this week, this month, this year. You have support. Whitney has graciously offered complimentary one-on-one sessions for those who are quick to get those seats, because it is limited seats available. In addition to that, here at Davidson, if you want to talk about your career goals, or maybe you just need a little push or creating a plan, the Alumni Career Network is also here for you. One-on-one coaching is available through the Alumni Family and Engagement Office and the Matthews Center, which is me. So if you're looking to connect to talk about a career plan or what have you, your Davidson family has your back. So I'm so excited at what you will do next. I'm so excited at how you will take back your time. And most importantly, just go forth with fearless intent, knowing that you're supported, you are loved, you are fearless, and you got this. You've got this. Thank you all for sharing your Tuesday night with us. It's been amazing. The replay will be on YouTube shortly. We're going to send the recap for your email this week. Also, tune in to Chat with the Cat March 24th. We are talking with the good people from Mission Collaborative to talk about career design, what that is, how you can be a part of it. And we've got some good things in the works for you. You got to stay tuned in March. But we're so grateful for you. Thank you so much. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Good night.